Place acceptable many nuclear arsenals, recent transvasculating listing nuclear order, some skin solvent, 17 red close to nuclear cities, nuclear lighting thing, I'm going to have nuclear, and I tend to maybe a user of the situation accident, so you could rise from your take it only takes one trigger. And avalanche is also for the reason to raise the rest of the last year's star busters and as again will sound when it comes to pricing cooperation last year maintain much increased viability not candidates security all of a sudden this question when the US made the country go up the probabilities accumulates further trauma tensely expand and moderate the rest of the storm will way get rid of unintentional nuclear escalation is guaranteed turns to turns given 18 hackers you weapon accidentally also involved when these other attackers are raised out of where their high tension really unpacked long term specific on computer capable and foresee later considerations given vulnerability cyber insecurity and mental habits and military capabilities attacks lead to go in launch loss of confidence nuclear turns AI new cyber attack causes first strike miscalculation nuclear war past extra applied Johnson 20 AI superability aspect accidental relation increased vulnerability events to be storing condition making happen coupling and nuclear events could be lead these able to launch for defect added to wisdom miscalculation and escalation AI become more multiple disability able to assess physics cyber attacks and knowledge across multiple with greater anomalies speed enable attack returning cyber defense user advanced tools fighting vulnerability air gap nuclear self control low cost cyber attacks without remaining aid techniques target dual warning system EGM3 has to be this good cause manipulation weapons known as data pointing injecting place and training sense even the peacetime leads to hacking causes countries to preemptively launch Johnson 28 is unclear whether a few times the collection holds your attack will bring a dual command every prevent the strike to and video make sure you use and release it situations any valuable vulnerability of anti-duty cyber even if espionage has authority on mode command certain creds would increase the incentive to strike preemptively the perception is capable exists would be inherently destabilizing say substitute positive and effectively command of less than 3 minutes time for but leaders on chance to escalate with false info China will use conventional strikes against use early warning satellites that we use to check nuclear launches that looks like a nuclear first strike and the probability is high because of misguided LA doctrine Palmer 19 China may approve argument misguided something like a analysis analysis how space work confirm on the types of reason truly and also not discuss China's vulnerabilities analysis how action may trigger body for NYD not discuss possible escalatory ramifications early warning that the US uses for nuclear warning Chinese leaders appears and does it after back and there's no consideration obviously maybe more invested in winning nuclear terrorism is coming now past examples may acquisition of certainty as long as nuclear weapons because but 19 can place about the nuclear terror many incidents research and business will find sophisticated terrorists given playing a flexible stuff nuclear armchair glacier and gas attempt to coordinate Al-Qaeda's nuclear acquisition nuclear religion to focus nuclear weapons ever repeated attempts against nuclear material production being tests of exposed to China planted as well radio officers there are 20 documentation was filmed put on a to US been a serious computer operation of secure information not clear amazing material was even noticed concerns over warhead video from nuclear weapons spread PTS now reform counterplans don't solve August 17 there's no consent with the US CBDS has been intense vacation during with the prosecuting board screening request mental nuclear confrontation the most current with the US against involvement concern Russia may mistake mental for nuclear system launching nuclear fundamentals understanding has been one of the most crucial arguments of the parallel with the CBS ambiguity with central gross operations through cooperation CBS will not be enough to mitigate the risk this arm leash shift to PTS political incentives that solves exists that's all 13 of central components disarmaments shift to far lines on advanced conventional warfare specifically PTS behind the move is the phosphate messaging the favorable nuclear reduction play getting concerned about weakening US security conventional capabilities enables available object releasing nuclear weapon devising turns and reassurance of old nuclear weapons non-nuclear elements take on a greater share of the deterrence burden PTS blunts adversaries' ability to employ anti-axis strategy Seaver 12 in the past year also had forward presence of right triggers pocket factors emergency expand versus adversary anti-axis your general computer grade use confidence ability circuit holds are relying on forward deploying turning stability circular limits CBS for stability of advantage long range prompt conventional most course and guidance accuracy and then see A2AD green lights risen them that causes great power war until 16 rich powers on the move from Ukraine the Persian Gulf to the SCS rivals and modernizing forces and fighting allies are goals to range global security raising powers and all allies in middle-willing buffers on the weapons to self-orienting more build for chasing with Rubish power the world standard about the world the US could be fronted with a great power war against 3 nuclear pure compatible without tech or mass historically and lent this year through a culminating military competition with Russian China so committed to combat with the capabilities to create this presence that the US is able to shape global politics and world wars without presence rivals like race to include to make re-entry impossible even one detonation is enough to cause extinction one environmental effects and global death either should by one weapon and guarantees extinction we were 19 nuclear nation and really created nation with 15,000 nuclear weapon program training we include main one nuclear basket trigger which is one nuclear war can do on a massive reverse nuclear with title to be winter reselling for taking testing drug winner global feminine counter price for all life intensity with destruction of those in a triggers organization nuclear weapon cannot be true nuclear war can start mistake of the sake of very high because we so much even not worth ready for in minutes with only minutes to valid warning, 1 mistake trigger disaster, 2 planetary explosion, previous test 2 specific they did use neutron nukes to getting developed now Chicago, 3 also priors developing neutron bombs for reactive isotopes and neutron the price cause increase the fire in the bomb video delay test for non-explosive seismic activity after every test was always increase on the activity 2 days tomorrow nuclear weapon is a global recruiting the planetary deterring the cause of the entire planet to 3 is cobalt bomb strike 15 Russia may be building it at Hayes bomb and massive amounts of cobalt when explosive makes cobalt radioactive spreads around the globe the half-life is 5 years long enough to give all time to settle before it decays and kills to intense radiation for longer than you lost himself there's no limit to how much explosive power you can put in hydrogen bombs and throughout the global someone wanted the risk of humanity C bomb is promising 4 super volcanoes past 97 pound Earth's crust when nuclear explosion might increase volcanic activity nuclear force could destroy civilization kernel will dark radioactive polluted planet nuclear or 100 megaton only smart person framing the standards maximizing spectral being extinction out waste is the utmost for real and disavow the risk makes it more likely the risk and 17 is good for people existence for people of this millions of people die painful death there would be no creatures or incidents all this race together because you see about the current generation means the loss of the only known for intelligent life healing capacity for rationality following necessity people with your physical painful premature death there could be very psychological false sense of hopelessness there will be no over here that you're possible and with you I mean I'm on the correct side of the rights for that chill details, militia, and finding people debate must interact and as key to civic engagement, academic research, comic crisis, but any alternative impact health and physical complexity was a net benefit to our firm, returns all framework often worth the 18 need to marketing project experts estimate the risk of human extinction as one is the most probable cause of answers and increases, including disaster problems like awareness about the real disaster based on estimations of extinction rules report 1 in 2 million words engagement extent to the academic humor and keep all non lack of talented people studying extinction has risk developing risk mitigation look hard civic engagement considered research there is urgent need to improve the communication of the magnitude extinction has risk methodological pluralism necessary for effective critiquing is key to avoiding endless political violence and academic blagger injecting sustainable critique self-reflection and counter-games verification methodological pluralism lies at the heart of an attempt to test different perspectives multiple methods understand the statement about scholar oscillates between different methods no single method can ever adequately represent each of capture details others cannot combining a range of methods deemed incompatible ones false instances of an event they're incompatible with exact intent that means to identify the refining tendency each to critically reflect someone by the round is sustainable.
Good?
Yeah.
The plan, method of implementation, what is it?
States have to eliminate their nuclear arsenals, we're not
How?
expecting class that.
How do they do that?
They eliminate their nuclear arsenals, we're not expecting the process.
Okay. Time frame for the impacts, when's it triggered?
Our urban system put like a specific year when it happens, but we say sort of new AI capabilities and the chance that a terrorist gets a bomb is increasing now.
Cool. The terminal impact, what does it mean to die?
So our evidence says that it would cause extinction and the process of death would entail tons of suffering.
That does not answer the question. What does it mean to die?
Sure, the process of death would entail tons of suffering and eventually like you would stop like breathing or something.
Where does that suffering come from?
The suffering, sure, so example of a nuclear war that would cause suffering is that like the ozone layer would like get destroyed, which causes people's skins to get burned off, there'd be no food, which would cause
So
mass
physical
damage.
suffering, cool.
Also
Pleasure and
psychological too, but
that's interesting. Pain and pleasure, why are they intrinsically good and bad?
sure, I think people not being able to eat and people's skins getting literally burnt off is something that is intrinsically bad.
Why?
I don't think,
That is not
are you
an
really
answer.
gonna say that people like not being able to eat and them starving is good?
Where is the well, that just seems like intuition. Where is the affirmative established a normative obligation? A, to follow consequences. B, why pain and pleasure are intrinsically good and bad.
Sure, we, again, just for the same reasons that we intuitively know that some things are good and bad too.
How?
We intuitively know that someone not being able to eat and then starving and then suffering is bad, and I don't think you can say the opposite.
Okay, that's interesting. The method evidence, the Lavorsky evidence, what's the warrant? This evidence just seems that extinction is probable and awareness and lack of awareness is bad. Why doesn't this state that any other alternative ensures complacency?
You kind of answered your own question, but our Jaworski evidence puts a number on it. It says that he sort of did a survey and found that the chances like when he like surveyed people that it would cause extinction was 1 in 10 million, which means you should just vote AF just to increase, just to sort of just like tell people that extinction is coming now.
Why is that good?
Because otherwise we will all die from like extinction and that would be bad.
So voting affirmative stops people from dying from extinction.
Yes, that's what our nuclear war cards say.
Okay, so voting affirmative, the action of the AF literally stops people from dying of extinction.
Obviously, after we like say this, it's not like the government will just eliminate the nuclear arsenals, but sort of the cost-benefit analysis that we can do in this debate is the best sort of method for getting education.
The Lavorsky evidence is in the context of implementation and raising awareness that's key for political change. How does the affirmative do that? And if you don't, why is this a method?
I think that's why I kind of just sort of explained political change is good when we can sort of understand the goodness and the badness of a certain action.
Okay, that's fine. 3 off case setting now. I sense it. Case will be the method and the framing stuff.
Okay, so should I just float on framing? Because I have advantage in framing. Should I float on advantage or framing?
Float on the framework. Let me know when everyone's good on there.
Yeah.
Both Scots? Cool.
Their conception of death is biological, intellect, and value of death is a reversal and subject to transformation. The results of securitization against death through social controls made possible in life, restrictions to capitalist prolongation, prohibition of death. Robinson. Social logic shapes central capitalism is biological shapes replaced by equivalence return to the same capitalism substitution with the abolition of the attempt to abolish death through fixed value. It's not death that we have lost the ability to engage with death. The lowest idea of biological material death, ideal solution, nor sociality, division, between life and death, the break all opposition, which other kind of play. Fourth base for all of our social general ability species. The one to see is the simulation of growing life within the real life. Real sovereign logic no longer operates by responding to the threats with the construction of endless potential to threats to justify preemptive warfare. Number 16. The virtual is a new sense refers to reality corresponds to an actual determining difference between the actual and the virtual. The actual is been absorbed by simulation, subject to security, are no longer in control of information from the information control them, highlighting impaired subject object virgin. The production of immediate characterized enormous amount of data produced by excessive dangers of the subject. Simply just makes it hard to satisfy the desire for more security flows. Information means all threats are immediately realized with the actualization of the only thing. Spiritual more complete security will eradicate any evil. Zero. Death equals zero. Warding off death to living. Death, security, insecurity are independent state of waiting externally satisfied. There's no external reality. Objects of insecurity and security are to be aggressive representation. Sovereignty lies beyond representation. Is no longer belongs to a simulated reality. Nuclear conflict is the ultimate instantiation of words replaced by non-words. It turns not just rather inward and replaces control through their pacification through the bomb torture. 81. To turn us beyond war and war was finished. Many events ever started except on visual works media are only there to maintain the illusion of the actuality. All these must succeed each other without the reality simulations of our nuclear proliferation of degrees of risk of the atomic clash of those who have experienced it will be destroy the atomic bomb. And inclination for violent interventions will destroy always good for rapid than weapons are disposed of nuclear powers export atomic weapons and every latitude control that will be replaced by pacification to the bomb little powers. Well, by the powers of destruction will no one can no longer match with the popular disband this culture. The hegemonic West seeks to render all visible, intelligible, and controllable codes and regulations of the are placed on the body of the other. So West uses virtualized wars as justification for endless global implicit bounds. Green 19. Wars when the global media the name promote war to war purpose via the degree to which wars work as a test of transformation in the nature world of it to turn into information which becomes a virtual transformation from the reality of virtual purpose to continue colonial West relevant for substitute for the image consumes the event and absorbs it. Though wars destroy the function destroy the other virtual is block the drives are global hegemony is approximately liberty of basic existence wars the global powers the power of the similar hegemony yourself the real block of the world down to all the alternative the tries to make everything see there's a new indication of the other virtuality of the war existing as the war the year that wars with the political world plays in relation to the global hegemony's extension of close relations with everybody. The world has lost the will for positive action, all those left in the power of the masses against it. Our alternatives to strategy mass exposure. 93. Negation is systemic as the natural around the broad masses come together is used to expect a positive or critical for the masses. All they have been undifferentiated power to reject and negate any parts goes beyond the discuss the transcendent power with everything political that human space over. Next up. The affirmative valuation of Harker participates in the politics of nostalgia. They are unachievable requests to return to the state before loss presents the possibility of direct relationships to society began with 13. Subjects in direct relation with their privileged object and future purpose definition within the anti-globalization movement examples of this the leftist political goal counter and global capitalism become intertwined with the return to less any way relating to the world implicit idea is the image of a non-lucky subjectivity those who argue for harmony global politics and nostalgia. Their nuclear politics are structured by a mandate disavowed that nullifies reality through the creation of a constant state of Carson Dixon. 17 narrative of nuclear politics form a massive crisis of prospect of annihilation. Ross mandate actually could be the condition for it as well. 9 the catastrophic reality resistance nuclear mentality culture has been subjected to a prolonged state of Carson sort of the rhetoric of nuclear escalation against unending and unexpected accumulation of destructiveness and world of inequality. The alternative is a note to the affirmative demand, the frustration of demand is productive and critical for such information. All these interrogation of morality escapes the endless repetition of enjoyment as a prerequisite for political change. Lumber. 12. Equals to the economy's frustration and compensation of most of the manifestation of the need for demand to adjust and provide fulfillment for need. The general power lies on the split between the demand and the need that some demands will be refused of article just demand others refusal of the address that can fulfill the subject need to require compensatory functions to negotiate the refusal of the subject wants and needs in the form of demand, but the role of the demand is not simple as fulfillment for those who wants and needs. The demand of the refusal on which the identity and subject are produced demands cannot be for the sake of development must not be fulfilled. Mark the card fulfilled. Next up. Blindness can never cross the black border. Borders are visible, but epistemological lines on the Western humanism, marked by social death and ontological violence. The attempt to move across them is based on the capacity for negotiation, structure, and to blindness by life. 17. We live in an anti-micro demands and deals violence, ontological anger, gratuitous, non-creative, any prior aggression that rather than experiencing performance, consumer structure that inside of the different positions, black to slowly say this white senior parts of the center of society, junior part of origin, black to outside humanity, will sense blackness with social death and slavery, general son and it over gratuitous violence and void of kinship, not legitimate to an object, value, and not by run to the convection of the world because of relation to board conceptualization, we can see blindness as a border the work is the inspired object. Subject is eliminated human at the expense of subjectivity. People is racialized by the epistemology demarcation, any movement across the border, and no relation other than structural times the changes. The United States do not configure social framework. This is the have taken place on the level of experience and on a disconnected blackness from slaveness on a structural level, Mark the Carter structural level. The middle passage not only kickstarted ontological captivity but destruction of African life. Those who live to fill the desires of their white saviors and were subject to NATO alienation, gratuitous violence, and John Donald Wilson. 18 minus the slave, the service, and women of social life, the slave. As form of violence, saturated black thoughts, narrative, inaccessible, historical system, redemption, are anti-black without the being as work for narrative, redemption, like any confusion. The semi-honest meaning will still be incorrect because contradiction is essential coherence. Humanity stabilizes redemption. Mark the card. Redemption. The one who sees mode of politics is and has always been anti-black born. 15 who comes possible think the one who go that black social perfection and judges ultimately here is a political saturated violence. Non-violence is black sacrifice and necessary to powers refuse the political promise they hunt to distort the metaphysical organizations. Blackness suffering is instrumental to compass gospel order to reject the black setting of the vehicles of political perfection, social maturation, the political associated black suffering, progress, and perfection are work to the black body, and any discord of hope will ultimately reproduce metaphysical structure. The pulverized black being the only ethical demand. It's for the end of the world. Self-will there was like when you used to stand as a yellow white student, you used them as selling into slavery. The Native American sitting on the side with that. Informed pedestrians they consider lynching comes and all the lives the structure that was there. The suffering was an ethical grammar, the only ethical grammar available. It draws our attention to the violence of unrights of world capacity to call the world itself into capture. She was not demanding a place in the capital. She was particularly one, the loss of her body being for captive. On the other hand, the corporal integrity free from her body fortified. Everyone with the world itself was another will give sort of island back to the savage, give life to self, and to say 14 more to the structure of antagonist would be dismantled for the record of their self-confidence session. Image read, no, we're not ready the next card of the case. Dilemma and poverty, when I see crosses with actually embarrassing, all the arguments as to why extinction are bad are purely tautological. They have not provided a normative justification for why pain is intrinsically good and pleasure is intrinsically bad. Normative impact justified frameworks are reason to reject the team versus relevant, but he takes the hands out of the debate because we can never weigh between two impacts which resolve, but he controls eternally to all their impacts. Second is ground, otherwise any extinction exit absent extinction will never compare in comparison to the magnitude of their impacts, which means we don't get negative ground. Multi-actor fiat is a voting issue because each state has a unique political situation, which basically getting stable negative links to any disadvantage is impossible. Your extinction outweighs argument states the most multi your argument. This argument is in the context of signification. There is no normative justification for why this exists. If we win our theory of communication and signification, it means it proves that their arguments are nonsensical. Debates, you say debates around every existential risk are good. First is that where no link. This argument is just a study about the way that magnitude, about the magnitude of the extinction impact, which does not mean that, which is not a normative justification or justification independently of why their method of politics is good. Second is just a method per the theory of the affirmative, which is not the one and see if we win a risk of offense on our theory. It means you can't argue. You can't put on this argument. You say you should maximize well-being for most people. First is that pain and pleasure are truth and unverifiable, which is the argument that we made above. If they make psychoanalysis non-verifiable arguments, it proves that util is also unverifiable because it relies on a conscious claim the way that we use subjectivity, that we have words like masochism and bittersweet, which prove that pain and pleasure are not intrinsically bad. You say, are we offer explanatory power for all the arguments, the way that we avoid certain things is explained by our psychoanalytic theories, which means they have to answer our theory of power before they can access center. And of their arguments, you say their method of politics, you say the methodological pluralism argument. First is in the context of understanding. This argument just doesn't justify permutations, it just justifies expanding our knowledge, which is impact turned by our Bertrand critique, because it proves that their will to transparency is always impact turned and it always produces more knowability per our theory of power. This argument second is that this claim does not make any justification for permutation because it just proves that individuals should include methodological pluralism. It's a question of action versus epistemology distinction. If we win one, that the epistemology of the affirmative is bad, they can't weigh this argument. Second is that our method is net better per the world of the alternative. It means that they can't weigh this argument.
Didn't read the cards in case. No. Okay, I'm good. I was just marking the dog, sorry.
Status of the alt.
Conditioning.
Cool. I guess the info overload stuff that was sort of made on the Bertrand critique. Why is knowing more information sort of has any impact?
I don't think that's the argument, but I'll answer it anyway. Information causes more dissuasion because our argument is that the way that it's signified and represented per the 1AC's method of politics is uniquely dissuasive. Our Lundberg evidence makes claims about the securitization of impacts in relation to the persuasion of information. There are two claims. First is that the more information that we develop, the more persuasive, the more dissuasive it becomes because there is so much that people cannot actually process it. Do you want the second one?
I guess no, that's fine.
Okay.
The third critique after Pez, how does calling for the end of the world sort of materially, I guess, make better the lives of Black people?
I don't think we've made, well, we can make materiality claims, but the argument is that it's a reorientation of the way and of our ethical relationship towards civil society. Our argument is that Blackness lacks a grammar to articulate its suffering in the status quo, which means if the alternative is a departure and is able to explain Black suffering and allow them to access a grammar to articulate their suffering, then it's uniquely good because it allows a reorientation towards civil society through things like Black intercommunal building, spiritual hope, etc.
Cool. The Wilderson evidence, the Lundberg evidence that you read about sort of the real and the hyperreal, why can you in the Robinson, can you identify why the sort of description of death is bad?
Which
the
evidence?
Robinson evidence.
The Robinson. Okay, you start off a little bit. So I was confused. The Robinson evidence makes a claim that the way that we have suppressed exchange plays a central role in the evolution of oppressive systems. He says that Robinson would say that things like the biological conception of death, the way that we do not engage with death in an act in a sort of pure form, is bad because it suppresses death, which leads to a juridical regime of death, as he calls it, which suppresses all those that don't meet an ideal Western model, those that don't meet the model, the representational content of the affirmative, etc.
Cool. The Lundberg evidence which you read on the second critique, I guess why is saying no, why is our specific form of political change sort of cause any of the cycle words? Or any of the words that were sort of explained in the code about that?
What do you mean?
I guess why is our form of
I think that's a question of the link debate, not a question of the
Sorry,
alternative.
can you explain that then?
The link debate?
Like,
There are
can
two
you
of them,
identify
which one
the
do you
specific parts of the act?
Yeah, so the idea that we should engage in debates about nuclear politics are structured by the unconscious. We've made psychoanalytic claims about how the way that the unconscious always attempts to desire, but does not desire the object, or rather the outcome of an action, but rather is desiring the process of getting there, which means we can A, never fulfill the affirmative. Second, it creates resentment because your method of politics is uniquely bad because we never know whether or not we can change state policy, only refine solution. The other link is the McGowan evidence.
I think, bro. Go for it. Alright, 320 to 11.
Cool.
Dustin. Order its case, the critiques in order.
You're very soon. In cases at the advantage, then the method.
We'll just see top that helps. We'll just
What
be
does
like
that mean?
okay, it'll just be like a quick overview than just like what they said, just to down.
Okay, so I'll float on framing, which is noted.
Yeah, wherever you flow, whatever they said.
Well, I just have to go through. So give me a second.
Are we good?
Nuclear war is guaranteed. 2 scenarios for escalation. 1 cyber, 2 causes accidents launched based on deterrence based on still incredible. 2 nuclear terrorism and the inevitable coming out recent security system empirics in the past. Terrorists can acquire the cause extinction and destroys global damage. Hamlet's lost to 16,000 years to destroy the environment, biodiversity, and the ocean was all kill everyone. The line of their arguments, they say impacts us by frameworks are voting. So we just said maximize pleasure and minimize pain. Extinction is the worst form of pain. So went on the critique field. They say multi-actor field is voting. So no, it's not. It's a resolution. Anything else we would suspect individual countries was hurt ground even more. They say there's no normative justification. It is. They basically conceded the intuition argument that we intuitively know that some things like suffering and us not being able to eat our bad. They say pain and pleasure are unverifiable. They are verifiable across all the intuition stuff that will answer their theory of power and the critique. The critique, extinction outweighs ontology. This is the only real untable state. And enemies to Africans and death to people not ontologically. Death is good as also key to the value and features of the race and comes first, even considering moral integrity. The role of the ballot, the role of justice, the vote for the better debate, or anything else is self-serving, arbitrary, and impact justified. We get away the aphids and the expert to prove the plan takes a bad idea, shifting the term debate representation, epistemology critically. Our mind's approbation makes debate uncritical. That internal link to field trend decimates fairness by making the rappers always neck fair quickly to run a small topic. Our bottle is also good for class because they bracket out important discussions or present. Field is good for consequential distancing and allows to consider broad implications of our actions on a broader scale instead of acting the ideology of pure weight. Debate should be focused on the question of whether or not the app is desirable compared to status quo competitive option. Does not be policy only. That debate should be focused around the app claiming structural advantage and for preparing for the negative and one piece of right. Debate is key. There's no other platform discussing merits of military intervention of the performances and advocates here merits doesn't spill up because proposals don't get tested and are inaccessible to the public. Pure mutations do both of the alternative can result in incidents of eternity, cannibalism, status quo, and overcome the residual links of the app. We are also radical in the level of form. We're also radical in the level of form. Our argument is that there is no divide between form and content given the way the power relations permeate all content. They say violent ideologies infiltrate all space in the US, so there's no distinction between inside and outside of debate, but it's something that we constantly interacted. Even in the speech act of the app is content specific, so it's an impact on the form of debate because we sort of nuclear weapons. The critique is not true in the case. It doesn't cause extinction. It doesn't worsen nuclear warfare. Robinson evidence is about death. Good is turned by our Burns evidence. So you be the worst thing possible. And fear of death is good because it means that we can sort of have motivating action. Death is not a zap. Now we're dead event. It's a process that includes suffering, mass starvation, and ultimately lives lost. Rich Jack Lincoln omission. That means we can't have meaningful loss because we didn't talk about escalating, which is infinitely aggressive scenario analysis of the bomber. Thinking the cult of irrelevance and relevance by growing course reaches the value of make communication only one component. These things corporate planning and senior also not here labeling the rest of the equated with simulation areas make out of conventional thinking importance of relationship between overturning assumptions that prevent callers analysts from understanding and trails. The next key cross-play from above way the African can be loose framework. One mobilization just talking about is the only way to mobilize public discussion that include everyone spills over to self-doubt like and other causes absent a large mobilizing factor like the discourse of crisis instability. The old fails because it doesn't allow us to debate the intricacies of how nuclear policy affects people. Too technical literacy only the ask discussion of how nuclear policy functions. The scope consult violent ideological structures like deterrence because the language and policy concept of arms control, militarism is so esoteric that only engaging community discussion about disarmament can create real change. The structure of the international system requires the pursuit of power goal with 17 the international system in New York, the central authority known as Washington, the 18 which can help two great powers of major players, possessing them often the military capacities, the industries, other states can never be certain about any other states' intentions as an opposite offensive danger over 34. The primary goal of states is survival. They may have further objective, but they cannot seek them out. Securing their resistance. 5 states are rational actors, states think they act intensely. There is zero empirical basis for the theory. 17 psycho and link their model with near-racist proposal that with mixed advice in neuroscience. Lacks living and calling it science, ignores the scientific cycle of being justify models that attempting to find something new to develop it. An immigration practice of piano may be caught at time where due to all findings not been confirmed with their ideas based on anecdotal clinical trials marked the cardiac trials. For pessimism, permutations about that nuclear war be very physical, painful because catastrophic impacts, environmental effects, and biological effects. 1. Radiation can be poisoned by extremely high levels of UVC. 2. Burns fires from your volcano rush to meet yourself overheat. 3. Starve you would have no food and gradually starve until your stomach implodes. 4. Drug your organs will slowly shut down until your body can no longer function. Crossplay all the framework often from the first critique. Parasitic material damage, cancer, historical circumstances, explain anti-blackness for a better hierarchy. 15. Every hierarchy is about 20 kilometers, 20 meanings for hierarchies of product of human imagination, environment, certain are created by laws and norms and by humans who cast and become deeply embedded in any closely to invisible provides a racial hierarchy. American Europeans, those import slaves from Africa, afterwards culture existed well developed series in the Middle East, American plantations were like Americans, the oppressed was not community, Europeans died to do using American potential facts, were redivide weight, Europeans want to be seen as just misrepressing services, justify this is stuck according to Western culture longer after slavery disappeared, some racism was made by racist legislation, comes low free force and cycle of president become more interested in having by all the best on the whole Western Hemisphere believe the blacks were really inferior. Not her, right?
4 minutes. Or... Chill.
I'm getting cold.
We know. Overview on Bourdieu and Afro-pessimism, then psychoanalysis. I'll send the card now. There's one.
You just say the order again.
An overview on Bourdieu and actually wherever you flow the framework, I think it was on the Bourdieu page. That'll be first. And then the Afro-pessimism and Bourdieu proper, and psychoanalysis. From a water bottle. Everyone good? Cool.
An overview on Bourdieu and Afro-pessimism, they were conditional. That was one to see cross-examination. We're kicking and not going for it. They can't get offense on it. And the two we are the framework proper. First is that you station ways ontology. This argument isn't applicable if we went on theory of subjectivity. Takes out all their arguments and not verifiability. Takes out all the arguments. Simply say roll the ballot and roll the judges for the debate every day. Anything else is subject arbitrary. We meet their interpretation. We'll disprove the desirability of the affirmative, which means that we'll disprove the desirability. All our links are to the plaintext and the action of the affirmative, which means that representational content is inseparable from the action that they take, which means their framework is self-serving and arbitrary and artificially inflates our impact story, which prevents any real debate and outweighs all their fairness and fairness claims because it makes the 2 and R impossible and guarantees 1 ER and 2 ER shifting, which outweighs all the arguments you say clash. So it doesn't solve our impact, at least infinite debates like process counterplans and infinite plan spec, which outweighs all our arguments. Our method to be method debate are infinitely better than their arguments fiat good. It's just it's a question all their arguments were in the context of binding, and it's not a question of TLS. If we explain why fiat and their method of politics is uniquely bad, it takes out all their frameworks. Argument representations are no, you say status quo or competitive policy option. No, it limits debates. No, it infinitely expands space. Things like constant counterplans and infinite plan spec, which was the debate above. Our method to be method debate are infinitely better because it limits the affirmative and allows in-depth clash to challenge the representation concept of the affirmative. Theory is inseparable from praxis, which if we win that their theory is incapable of describing their method of politics and that they all turn in that ways, it proves that we meet their framework. And these arguments. The next question of this debate should be how we relate to debate's mode of communication and how we relate to debate's mode of signification and theory of subjectivity. If we win this argument, it's 2 framing questions that's to determine the evaluation of this debate. First is who has the best theory of subjectivity and signification writ large. They have not presented a defense of their theory of subjectivity or a counter one, which means the K always 100% objectively. Second is who has the best method to combat oppressive structures and a method of politics under that conception of the world. There's a risk we can solve their often get our structural analysis of the way subjectivity is structured, but they cannot solve ours, which answers all their permutation arguments because it proves that permutation and the alternative will be is net better. Our thesis is that higher order desires influence the way the desire operates, which is the unconscious. We have conscious desires that outwardly we try to strive for, but those we are constrained by the unconscious, which we are unaware of, that influence the way that the desires lead to our actions. For example, even if nuclear politics are bad, we have an outward desire to get rid of them, and maybe unconscious desires to get rid of them that drives those discussions because of the way that subject interaction desire, which we control the root cause to all their arguments, and method debate because it's a way of signification and relating to the world. The 2 link arguments that were straight up conceded on this page. It was absolutely embarrassing. First, to McGowan evidence that when we attach ourselves to the stage, we add an astrology for the state, which is not valid or not oppressive. And when we recreate the old image of the state in our current understanding, view of violence is good or a state falsely because we desire time previous to that doesn't exist, but a false presents that justifies infinite violence. That means a point we don't get to access the justice impact because we are falsely attaching ourselves to a good state, and B point by attaching ourselves to the image of the state, we also attach ourselves to what it does, which allows for infinite violence, which in turns their case the Nixon evidence. It's in the context of nuclear policy debates, which disproves the desirability of their method of politics. Debates around nuclear weapons create the catastrophe we try to get rid of because we live in a state of crisis that justifies psychological violence leading to evidence into social structures that otherwise we would not like. Even if state's bad, we allow ourselves to be affectively attached to the things that allow us to be safe. First is that psychic violence, as individuals compresses their own beliefs leading to infinite unfulfillment, as we cannot achieve juice if our actions do not reflect a higher order desire. Second is reattachment to things where we distance ourselves because of our unconscious desires toward life that allows the state to make up and create such which link turns their impact. For example, even when individuals despise the state but decide to invest in it for the pursuit of their own survival, which justifies policymakers to capitalize on creating false scenarios of suffering, which means our impacts are self-fulfilling prophecy and justifies why the key turns in outweighs the case. The line-by-line proper versus the mobilization disadvantage. The alternative fails filter all of their line-by-line arguments through a conceded theory of subjectivity and signification, which is how we relate to the world. They have not presented a defense, still not any new theory or extrapolation of one-year arguments on the question of utilitarianism because it wasn't there originally on the psychoanalysis page. You shouldn't do embedded clash with them because otherwise it kills you in our strategy and guarantees. Two-year run, you say the alternative fails because we can't debate nuclear policy. That was the argument that we made above. Even if their method of politics would be better, explain the way that we signify in our relationship to nuclear policy, which explains their method and outweighs the case you say technical literacy is good. All their arguments are in the context of fiat, but no, we'll win. Our theory of subjectivity and signification, which takes all the arguments we cannot predict. We cannot predict the way that fiat is conveyed absent a theory of signification and subjectivity, which takes all the arguments. You say the structure of the system requires a pursuit of power. This is just unique to explain, but doesn't provide details. Only we can explain why we ought to engage forms and method of politics. Their method is per the state. Our method is per an alternative that refuses that rejection, which is the link debate that we did above the empirical basis argument. First is that they're so focused on science assumes a purely irrational subject, which proves their refusal to come to terms with the lack by attempting to discredit the idea that desires and drives have any bearing in action. That idea that emotions and social processes don't affect us is absurd and proves they're super invested into the subject that only impact their claim is philosophy isn't a science which doesn't prove anything for our model of human experience that tries to explain that we feel actually psychoanalysis is falsified and verifiable neuropsychoanalysis proves Solomon and Turnbull PhD succeed that the basis for false neuroscience advances in neuropsychology and important understanding the example of after neuroscience, neuroscience psychoanalysis has allowed the distinction finding in relation to the domains of emotional and instinctual job psychoanalytic investigation and neuropsychological piece to make observation concerning the neural correlates and balancing the virtual social imagining. It's not a question of science, but it's a question of sociology, so we don't have to win that it's falsified. For example, when we see police shootings, we can understand the culture of anti-violence and racism that isn't cultivated. The second is that logic is part of the Western notion of science, which we critique. That was the argument above the impact debate. Proper first, we win a link, it means you increase unsurvivability. Second is survivability for who we know. The violence happens in the affirmative, but it's a question of probability and a small chances. For example, maybe the world survives, but you increase genocidal violence, which is obviously atrocious and proves your counter-morality wrong. Third is the survival drive is consistent with the impulse of policymakers to justify actions like police shootings, racism, military intervention, and attempt to secure the world. The conscious and outward drive to survival, but ignore the unconscious drive behind those actions of desires to dominate, commit, and violence and conquer. That's the reason why judges vote on extinction scenarios, even though they think the world won't end tomorrow. The twisting of our individual survival drives to justify violence. You'd like 4 is not unique. Extinction happens anyway due to climate change, pandemics, etc. So only our impact is not unique. The 5 point is linked to our nation says extinction scenarios corrupt survival drives, so people appeal to the state despite hatred of the state's authority, which allows the state to make up extinction scenarios or create new threats, which is an epistemic prerequisite to evaluating the arguments. The alternative first is the alternative is a juice and pleasure to create reliance on refusal. The superego cannot compete all desires, which relies on the ability to refuse certain desires by distinguishing between our unconscious and outward desires. Our unconscious desires. When we choose to refuse something, it is what creates our identity and subject, because the act of saying no is what forms our moral codes, which is how we enjoy ourselves. Intellect, vote negative to say no to the affirmative, never ending quest toward satisfaction, embrace our own constituent life to joy and create true existence. Only then can we explain the method of the affirmative politics. It's a prerequisite to them accessing any of the arguments because it's an epistemic side constraint on how we evaluate the plan. And a good idea, if we win a link argument and prove the desirability of the alternative, it disproves the desirability of the plan. The 2 are just going to be the permutation or any of the arguments. The case outweighs is a good idea, but they can't grant them any of this argument. And so far, they conceded a theory of subjectivity and signification, which should filter all their offense. Yeah, they conceded this argument. No permutations were made. It's incompatible because it's a rejection.
So you're saying you said case critique.
Yeah.
So like given that like the framework debate I guess was on the like Baudrillard
yeah.
forum, where is that going to be
I'd
before or after the?
I go case then Baudrillard then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will signpost when I'm done framing.
Okay.
Are we good?
Zero looks serious on the tune on the case face me the nuclear war will inevitably happen and kill us all. They've conceded our AI scenario, which means a nuclear war, which means hackers will get nuclear weapons now and they will make it look like it happens because of increasing AI, which means we outweigh all of their arguments on time frame. They all conceded a nuclear war causes extinction because destroys the environment, biodiversity, and the ocean, which effectively kills everyone. The framework debate will do here. With the framework debate, only evaluate the desirability of the plan. Anything else explodes after Previn moves to 1AC. The impact is fairness and class, which turns all of their offense. One, our impacts are defense over epistemology and rest because they didn't defend an ethical switch. They have to defend BK1. We'll extend the tech literacy argument. Well-planned solutions are necessary to stop violent structure of militarism. Only the afternoon's debates about policies that are accessible to enough to communities that allow for the creation of tangible change. 3 is mobilization. Only discourse on policies that seem esoteric create public dialogue, which spills over to movement creation. The alternative blocks off that activism, dudes off the most risk groups to continue violence. We'll also concede the exclusion offense where they just completely drop their model framework. It means that we can't talk about other types of important issues like capitalism, settler colonialism, or anti-blackness because they only want to focus on one sort of issue, which means our sorts of debates are the best because they include the best thing. The next argument one is plan focus. They basically concede this. I want you to read through 1 and C links and find wherever it talked about nuclear weapons. They didn't extend the Dixon card, but the Dixon card they said is just about nuclear culture. It's not about the process of disarmament at all. Their only response here was just like an I need argument, except I just like read through their evidence. It never says that the McGowan argument is just a progress link, obviously not about disarmament at all. That means that there's no link to critique and any risk of extinction outweighing, which we'll get to sort of later, means to outweigh. I would float this now back on the psycho stuff. Our nuclear representations are good. They generate public understanding, which motivates action towards risk reduction. This directly answers their maths and evidence in the links about nuclear presentation, which you should view as net benefit to voting F anyways. They're an indictment of having nuclear weapons. So winning whether representations are good or not doesn't really matter because they've just conceded that you need to have links to the plan. The last argument will go far as extinction outweighs. Extinction is the only true and fixable state because the life of the prerequisite to any value. They're all to them possible without consciousness. Social death only analogize the suffering to that. So if they win ontology or end of their genocide arguments first, automatically vote F. Independently discounting futures under racism causes ethical distancing that is a pretext for genocide and justifies materially worsening the conditions for everyone. B point, a nuclear war that happened because we decided keeping nukes was good for somebody. Wouldn't just kill people instantly. It would be a long, painful process. It would make the air impossible to breathe. It would make growing food impossible. It would make water impossible to drink because of radiation poisoning. Because it would make radiation poisoning. You conceded it causes endless violence, which is an argument we made on the Afro-pessimism page. There's no self-fulfilling prophecy. We know consistent reasons about why nuclear war would be bad, considering you've conceded all of the case space. The theory of subjectivity was just repeated over and over, but no reasons about why that means that we couldn't get to weigh the case. We'll answer their reasons about why extinction doesn't outweigh here. You conceded it, you say question the survivability. You conceded it causes mass genocide anyway because people's skins literally get burnt off. It means that argument is not unique. The second argument how it causes compulsive about military intervention wasn't really explained very well. It was just a blip and was not sort of applied about why sort of genocide would outweigh extinction. Do you say the world went tomorrow? Yes, that is the thesis of our framework arguments. We have to understand why it happens and then debate about the potential solutions for it. You say extinction happens anyway. They didn't read any evidence for this or why climate change would cause extinction. We were the only ones that are an extinction scenario will happen right now. They say the state will just make up scenarios. They have to read evidence for this. They have to indict our specific authors and give evidence about why our specific authors suck. They can't just keep reading their same overview for 4 minutes.
Debate.